Counting atoms worksheet. For the problems at the bottom of this worksheet, you're going to be counting out how many atoms of each element there are in the compound, and you have to include any coefficients at the beginning of the compound. So I'm just going to go over the examples with you because it shows you how to do the rest of these in these examples. So in this case, make sure if you see a lowercase letter, that lowercase letter goes along with the capital letter before it. But if you see two capital letters together, those are two separate elements. O and H would be oxygen and hydrogen. There is no element OH together. So make sure you list them separately. So here's Na, O, and H. If there's no subscript down to the right of it, it's understood that there's one of that element. So Na, O, and H all have one atom of that element in that compound. Here I have 3 MgCl2. Now if I left out this 3, if I had an MgCl2, here's Mg, here's Cl, I would have 1 Mg because there's no subscript and 2 Cls. That 2 tells me I have 2 Cls. But since I have a 3 in front of that, it means I need to multiply the whole thing times 3. 3 MgCl2s means MgCl2, MgCl2, and MgCl2. So there'd be 3 of them. So I multiply this 3 times everything in there. 3 times 1 gives me the 3. 3 times 2 Cls, chlorines, gives me 6. And I'm also asking you to go ahead and write out the total number of atoms involved. So once you have this one written out, 1, 1, and 1 gives you 3. Here, 3 Mgs and 6 Cls gives you 9. Now in this case it gets a little trickier because we have parentheses. This parentheses here means that I have 2 of everything in the parentheses. So I have 2 sets of NO3 in this compound. And then I'm also saying I have 5 of the whole compound. So this 5 coefficient in front will multiply by everything in there just as this one did. And this 2 subscript outside parentheses will multiply by anything inside the parentheses. I always look at what's just to the left of the subscript. So since 3 is just to the right of O, I know I have 3 oxygens. 2 is just outside of this parentheses here. Okay, so just to the left I see parentheses, which means everything in parentheses has to be multiplied by 2. So for zinc, it's not in parentheses. It does not have a subscript, but it does have a 5 in front. So I have 5 zincs because of 1 here with no parentheses times 5 is 5. Nitrogen, N, is in parentheses. It does not have a subscript of its own. So here's 1 times 2 because it's in parentheses. Now I'm at 2 times 5 in front as a coefficient gives me a total of 10. 1 times 2 times 5. O, oxygen, does have its own subscript. So I start off with 3 oxygens. Then it's in parentheses, so I have to multiply that 3 times 2. Now I have 6. 3 times 2. It also has a coefficient in front, again, just like all the other ones in here, and I multiply that 6 times 5 to get my total of 30 oxygens for this. So 3 times 2 is 6, times 5 is 30. I add them all up. 5 plus 10 plus 30 is a total of 45. You'll do the rest of these the exact same way. Just remember, a number in front multiplies by everything. A subscript that is next to one element symbol goes only with that element symbol, and a subscript next to parentheses multiplies by everything in the parentheses. If you do still have questions, make sure you ask.